Hello guys, welcome to webinar number 7 of our 8 webinar series on the visibility verdict. So here we're going to talk about why does your content quality crash the moment client works get busy. All right. So this for the coach whose content quality crashes the moment client work get busy. So you're already earning $5,000 plus a month. So this is not a discipline problem and it's predictable, right? You kind of observe it in the pattern, in the structures around you. Right. The exact moment the business is doing best, full calendar, high delivery, is when marketing quietly stops. And then content gets crashed, posted less often, or abandoned entirely right now, right when you're the busiest or and most busy, right? And most taken by work. And then a month or two after the busy season ends, the pipeline goes quiet, right? With no obvious cause. So you sacrificed marketing time for client work, and after client work demand goes low, right? It seems like nothing moves in the business. Things have gotten way, way quieter. And then you've told yourself client delivery has to take priority and marketing has paid the price every time. So it's already set up in your mind that as long as client work comes, right, whatever time you used to spend on marketing is no more priority. Right. So we show you clearly how to deal with that and what's wrong with that. All right, so how are we going to solve this problem? The first thing that we're going to do is why your content quality crashes the moment client works get busy, right? Just on site directly. And then why the usual advice or just push through makes your content worse. Three, we are going to introduce you a framework that helps us solve this problem. The capacity selling, right? Why marketing is always the first sacrifice. If you don't understand how come you rationalize the sacrifice of marketing anytime client will get busy, you you might not know, right, the threat that it will represent for your business and how exactly and why exactly to solve it. And then four, we're going to help you find your minimum viable marketing number before your next busy season. Five, we're going to look at how one consultant protected their pipeline through their busiest quarter. And then six, why protecting marketing time feels selfish when clients are waiting, right? So we're going to go into the deeper reasons why there is that natural predisposition. And then seven, we're going to look at the capacity buffer, right? That keeps your content alive during busy work. So that's one of our solutions to this. And then lastly, we're going to answer clearly. So why does quality drop when you get busy and what's the fix? All right, part one. Why your content quality crashes the moment client work get busy, right? So this is part of a webinar, right? Make sure you watch the entire webinar or watch other videos in this webinar. All right, so marketing doesn't shrink proportionally. It tends to disappear. Right, so what's actually happening? So without a protected minimum, marketing time doesn't get reduced proportionally during busy stretches, right? It tends to disappear almost entirely because there's no flaw stopping it. So because you never really sat down to agree on a certain flaw that, okay, regardless of how busy or not busy work gets with my clients, I'm going to post this number of times every week, or I'm going to do SYZ in marketing every time, regardless of what happens. So you just see it just becomes a natural thing to just let client work take over marketing activities. All right. So why isn't this visible what happens? Client delivery genuinely does deserve priority during busy season. So we're not trying to discredit that. You pray for the client, you requested for the client, you work for the client to come and they're in there. And then so work has to be delivered. All right. So the cost of a neglected marketing minimum doesn't show until later. One lag that echoes the previous chapter. So you might not see exactly the cost of that marketing choice that, let me just stop my marketing. You might not see it immediately because of course there's clients are there and their money is flowing. But after you are done, right, there will be a lag season that will come, a lag season, down where things may be slow. That's when you clearly see the cost of neglecting the market, not just stopping it altogether. All right, so let's look at it practically. What does this look like? So we have two coaches here, right? During the same busy quarter. So the first one has no protected minimum, right? No decision of, okay, I'm going to have a minimum number of posts I carry on every week or every month, regardless of how busy things are. So what ends up happening is that there are zero posts during the busy quarter, and then the fireman follows one like period later. So after that season of busy activity comes a season where there's clearly nothing, right? Things are just completely low in terms of client orders. And then we have the other coach, right? So he has a protected minimum set. And that's something like maybe two posts a week, right? Down from five, but never zero. So the pipeline stays warm. There are always new leads that are being marketed to. So the whole point is about keeping the pipeline on. The moment the pipeline is closed or limited or, I mean, disproportionately being shrunk, right? You may end up facing a month without clients. So let's look at it quickly, right? We want you to look at your own numbers and your own business, right? To see this thing clearly. So before your next busy season hits, check the pattern. One, look back at your last genuinely busy stretch. What happened to your marketing output during it, honestly? So the last time you're busy, it will be it a quarter, be it a month, right? Be it 2 months or 6 months. What really happened to your marketing in that season? And then two, we want to check the pipeline 30 to 60 days after that stretch ended. We usually see that there is a quiet patch over there, right? And that comes from the cost of not carrying out marketing for a season. And then three, you want to name whether this happened more than once. So, I mean, before it becomes a pattern, there must be repetition. So in your whole business journey, right, as far as you can remember, how many times something like that has happened. So that gives you an exact idea of what we are talking about with your business right now. All right, part two, why just push through advice makes your content worse, not better, right? And in this part of a webinar, make sure you do watch the other part of the webinar, the entire webinar altogether. All right, so pushing through damages the signal more than reducing volume deliberately. And we'll explain it. So you can go with full output, right? During a busy period where you have clients there, and are genuinely busy. But what may end up happening is there's content dilution, right? In terms of quality, content is diluted. So if you're going to do great work, right, most of the time it must come from a place of stability or some form of inner peace or not being so overwhelmed, right? When you're overwhelmed with so much, your decision quality, right, generally will reduce, and that will show in everything that you do. So this will not just affect even your content, but it will affect the client work as well. So the idea of pushing through, the idea of doing more, right, it may not only work so much in that time. So full output under pressure isn't sustainable or even effective, right? That's the truth of it. So you've tried to push through a busy season at full marketing output before. So maybe you are doing 5 posts every week, right? Client work came in and you still trying to do 5 posts every week, right? And then the content that came, and we're talking about not just client work coming, we're talking about busy. So like there's a lot to do. There's a lot to do, right? Way more than usual. And then and the content that came out of it felt visibly rash or generic. So that's usually what will happen. So the fees is it more effort, right? Unfortunately, we deal with the effort thing over here. Most of the time, we human beings, when we seem to be met with a limitation, what we usually try to do is to push in more to try and, I mean, apply more force. But that's an immediate natural response to opposition. But that's usually not the solution. So the solution actually is that a deliberately reduce, right? The keyword here is deliberately. Protected minimum, right? Not full output maintained under pressure and not zero either. So there's going to be a level of intentionality in this and deciding that, okay, regardless of what happens, this is what my minimum is going to be, all right? And this is definitely not going to be your usual number, but it should also not be nothing as well. So we don't want that. We don't have to have nothing being done. We also don't want to have everything that you're doing in normal time being done if you are busy, right? And we want to have a protected minimum as well. So we'll talk about that later in the webinar. So how does it apply now? How can you apply this now? So the first one, you don't want to stop aiming for full output during busy weeks. it's possible to have full output during busy week, but then we talk about how that should be done. But for the everyday consultant or coach who may not have a team, who doesn't spend time like planning ahead to have top quality content throughout their content year, right? The full output idea at high quality, full output idea in busy weeks may not really be an option. So the first thing, right? One, so you want to drop any goal of maintaining your normal posting volume. That's the first thing you want to do, right? That strong head or like that, excessive confidence that okay, I'm going to pour in full, but I'm very busy. I'm talking about being a busy consultant, a busy coach here, a busy week, right? Literally every day back to back work, right? Not just having orders. So in that case, you want to drop any goal of maintaining that normal posting volume. So full output during the busiest weeks is really realistic or even desirable. So somebody can do it for maybe it's a busy quarter. You can so for the first 3 weeks, yeah, you are at it. You are posting at full normal volume. But you observe that okay, beyond three, beyond 2 weeks, beyond 6 weeks, you just can't keep at it. So we want to rather to be honest with yourself at the start or even before a busy week comes. That's the whole point of this webinar. And we've been sharing a lot in the past 6 webinars, strategies that are meant to increase your authority in the market, to make your visibility more effective, right? So we know for sure that there will be many changes. There will be some many changes to your business. Client orders will increase significantly, right? So why not prepare for that? Why not prepare for that? All right. So third thing is that you want to write that number down before your next. Okay, two, you want to identify the smallest realistic weekly number instead. So what could be the smallest realistic weekly number of posts or reads that you could keep up with sincerely, right? It's not definitely zero. It's not, five, right? The minimum that keeps your pipeline from going silent. That's literally what you're thinking about here. And then three, write that number down before your next busy season arrives. Right. And then, so you want to have it written down. You don't want to wait for the busy season to come and then you now decide to take action. So deciding it in advance is what can make the flow instead of a guess. So it's already known that, okay, if they're starting this type of volume in orders, right, and I'm alone doing it and I seem so busy, so overwhelmed by it, this is what I'm going to keep up with. So having that number also helps you plan ahead of time to make those type of content down. And the main philosophy behind this whole thinking is the looking at the unavoidable damages that social media created in our society or in culture. Right, it's been a great tool. It helped us grow businesses in so fast, reach people that we never thought we could reach. Right, social media has been such a blessing, but at the same time, it has created a generation of slave workers or slave business owners who are slave to the algorithm, right? Who cannot strategically and peacefully detach from the as from performing for the algorithm. We are supposed to be dictating to the algorithm how things should be done, not the other way around. So if we move from that place of having people, people who are in charge of their time, people that like, whether they like or not, they just have to obey the rules of the algorithm, post any type of content that they want, just to satisfy the algorithm. And sometimes do it at the cost of other things. So the whole point is not just to grow a business, but how do you grow a business and still keep your sanity and still keep other aspects of your life going, right? How do you grow a business in such a way that like beyond the vanity metrics of, oh, well, I'm posting every day, I'm posting 3 times every day, and I'm reaching X number of people, you are being effective. You are not just following the waves, you just know what you're actually doing. So if you think about it that way, trying to have I do personally a lot beyond business, right? So, and I enjoy those other things that I do beyond business, and I want to keep on doing them while also having the business. So these are some of the things that personally taught me push me to think beyond the normal advice being given, right? The advice of pushing through is what this workaholic economy and workaholic, work environment or work culture around the world will tell you to do. Just hustle, 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 and just push through it. But truly, it doesn't produce the best humans and doesn't produce the best benefit for society overall in the long run. So you really want to look at it personally. So if that's what you are thinking and you actually want a life where you are not a slave to the algorithm, but you are dictating how the algorithm should treat you and how it should actually be a helper rather than a master, I mean, this should be for you. So embrace it fully. All right. So part three, the capacity ceiling. All right, this is a unique framework that we have at the Growth Masters Consult, and we use it to help our clients deal with busy orders. Because what's your point? What's your point of doing so much marketing and visibility, and then you have a great month or a great quarter, you stop marketing because you never really prepared your business to market during busy season. And then after that busy or nice financial quarter, you go back to, I mean, such a lower performance financially. It's just pointless, right? This is not the type of business that I want to build personally at the Growth Masters. All right. So the capacity ceiling. Marketing has no natural flow unless you build one. And this is an important statement to understand that the marketing is such a way that like everybody sees in terms of output, usually the type of the output that you see usually based on the type of input that you put in. There's no rule of okay, post this and that, that. Some people will do one post every week, right? And still reach maybe 1 million people because of where they are. Some others will have to do 10,000 posts before they can ever reach 1 million people based on where they are. And some others too may actually not post at all and their businesses will not be affected. So marketing is just a very interesting thing. Just very interesting thing altogether. So let's look at these two graphs. So we have a client here, right? The first one, he has no protected minimum at all. So client work comes in and it quickly, right? Maybe every week or a normal week, they were just doing 10 hours of client work and maybe like 5 hours of marketing. That's just an example, right? But when client work comes in, because there is no marketing flow, okay, well, guys, what happens? Marketing is going to take this type of time weekly. Client hours come and eat up the 5 hours of marketing work because there's usually no flow. And then even goes deeper to even take on more hours in the week. That's what we're talking about here. That's what happens where there's no protected minimum. But then let's look at the capping, the capacity ceiling, right? Apply. So there's a protected marketing flow. Clearly that you can see here, right? So regardless of how busy client works gets, it cannot eat up into that time or eat up into those numbers. There's a clear place, there's a clear number where it's supposed to be. So the goal isn't a full plan during the busy weeks, right? Generally, it is it is not, right? A system is not built to overwhelm you, right? It's not built around the usual culture of workaholism and like hustle, 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 hustle. I mean, we believe that life is beyond that. And you genuinely not have time to discover what there is more about life if work is eating you up or if work is dictating your life. But so if you're in metropolis or in capital cities or economic hub in your nation, it's very easy to fall for this trap. Very easy. Just busy, 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 and never only like exploring life and exploring, I mean, your being and your purpose of existence beyond beyond work or beyond whatever you have been given, right? Monetarily. So it becomes the dictator of your life, the dictator of even your purpose, the dictator of your existence. And that's so unfortunate. That's unfortunate. All right. So we will not want that for you. So this is what we have here for you. So the ceiling framework, the capacity ceiling, right? Two working parts. So you have two key parts that you have to really understand. Part one is the marketing has a natural flow. So unlike client delivery, right, which is clearly numbered and dictated by the client, which has a firm deadline and consequences for missing them, marketing time has no built-in enforcement mechanism. Nothing immediately breaks when it's deprioritized. I'm very particular about this one, or I would say I've become very particular about this, particularly when you are a solopreneur or you're a startup entrepreneur, and it seems like the client work obviously demands you to meet some deadlines and meet some quality requirement. But when it comes to your own marketing, to really to really build a serious business or a business that we have like sustainability in it without always having to kind of start up something or try to start again the business over and over. I hear that so many times that, oh, there was a downtime and then we started it again. I mean, I had to do that and I never want to do that again. So I agree that regardless of whatever is happening, there should be something that is going on. I should see my marketing as also client delivery. And truly, if you look at it that way, things change completely. I think we are going to have like a webinar where we just talk about that approach to marketing. Because the moment you see your marketing as also a delivery work or a client work for the market, it changes a lot. It changes a lot in how you approach things. Um, so you want to see your marketing, even though you are not immediately being paid for it, right, as client work. Meaning, for example, look at this content that I'm making, right? I'm adding value to somebody in the market. And client work to also add values. So I may not be paid immediately for that, but I'm contributing to something, and as it compiles, as it comes together, right? What's happening? What actually becomes a client order for me is that value that I've been adding progressively over time, day after day, week after week. That comes together as one order or as one client request, and then it's brought to me together as money. So as much as our marketing immediately doesn't produce income, it compounds. So you are doing something because somebody is going to watch this video, somebody is going to read those posts, somebody is going to watch those infographics or to go through those carousels and get educated and move their businesses forward. So whether you are being given money immediately or not, you are adding value. And the key about economic increase is always value addition. One way or the other, right? You must be adding value to some, or you must be contributing to somebody or to something positively. As long as that is happening, right? A financial reward will be is unavoidable. Just unavoidable. So productivity comes where literally you are just not adding value to anybody or anything at all significantly, right? Or you are adding value, but then it has not yet come together to a place where it now becomes something that can produce like a harvest that can be turned into a client order or turned into a financial harvest together. All right. So you want to look at the cost, right? The second thing you want to look at is that the cost will show up later. So a quiet month of marketing doesn't cost anything visibly, right? In the same month. That's what we're saying. The cost arrives one pipeline lag period later. So once a busy season ends, what we usually observe is that like, okay, I mean, it seems like the consequences of that start showing up. Right. So the cost shows up later. So a quiet month of marketing doesn't cost anything, right? Anything visible in the same month. The cost arrives one pipeline lag period later once the busy season ends. All right. And that's the deception about it. So a minimum viable number, not a full plan, right, is a feast. So, I mean, what the goal isn't to maintain a full marketing output during the busiest week. That's really not the goal, right? That's really realistic, and chasing it usually backfires into rush and diluted work. So we want to avoid content dilution, right? So what the goal actually is? So the goal is actually to identify the smallest amount of visibility work, right? That keeps the pipeline from going fully silent, right? And protecting that specific minimum as a non-negotiable. So you want to first identify the smallest amount of visibility that keep the pipeline going and then protect it. So it becomes a rule and you have system there in place to actually implement it. So what's the capacity ceiling then at a glance? The first thing that the capacity ceiling reveals is that one, there is no natural flaw, right? So nothing stops marketing from being cut first. If it's not structured that way, right? I said in the previous webinar that I mean currently on YouTube I'm releasing like 3 videos every day. But for that particular platform at least, right, our ceiling will be like at least one video every day. And if it gets too hard to get that done, maybe because of how it may be something else to produce content the way we want to produce it. It will just become 4 times a week, right? But then it must be known ahead of time. That's the cause of it. That's the real strategy behind it. And then the cause is delay. So the bill arrives one like period later, right? It's more protected now. The bill arrives one. So the cost of it, the cost of you not having the capacity ceiling up or structured is not always seen there. It's appear one like period after. And then the minimum and then not a maximum. So a small protected number beats zero. So that's really what you want to do. So you want to have this number that you can just stick to. All right, part four. Now, I want to find your minimum viable marketing number before your next busy season. So, is this part of a webinar, right, series or an episode? Make sure you do watch the entire webinar or watch other videos in this webinar. All right, so this works because it decided before the pressure hits. It's decided before the pressure hits. So what is it? A specific number of posts or specific weekly time block decided in a calm moment before the next busy season begins. So when we are planning content output with our clients and we know what's going to happen, our business booming and scaling up right, to the next level, we also agree on that minimum number when work is also going to get busy for them. So it's known ahead of time. It's not like something that's just comes up and then you just decide on it. It's known ahead of time. And then the common failure mode. So trying to determine a reasonable minimum in the middle of an already overwhelming week tends to produce a number of zero, right? Exactly what this meant to prevent. So if you don't do it ahead of time, if you wait for you to be overwhelmed, right, you end up not doing anything. That's what we come to observe. So this framework is actually designed to prevent that. So reflection worksheet. So you want to take time and answer this question honestly because it will really help you know what should be your minimum number and the depth of the problem. All right. So what has historically happened to my marketing output during my busiest client seasons? Two, what's the smallest realistic weekly marketing minimum I could protect no matter how busy things get? And then three, do I have any evergreen content currently sitting in reserve for the busy week, right? For the busy stretch, do you have anything like that seated? And then four, when is my next predictability busy season, right? And have I planned for it yet? We don't know whether you plan for that. And then five, what will it take to build a three-piece content buffer before that season arrives? So these are questions that you really want to answer honestly. All right, so let's look at the case study, right? How one consultant protected their pipeline through their busiest quarter ever. That's part five. Part five. All right, so heading into the busiest client quarter to date, after every previous busy season had dropped marketing output to zero. So he has observed the pattern and I decided to do something about it. First thing that has to be understood is that a reduced minimum beats the usual default zero. So two posts per week protected as a minimum, right? Down to the number five, but never zero. Right. And then for the first time, there's no post busy famine. Right. So there's no sales season where like, okay, you see huge increase in another one where it seems like nothing really happened. It's crazy sometimes that when nothing really happens after a kind of busy season, we are not so quick to blame our marketing outputs or inputs. And that's I think what I would not like in unusual spike in business without explainable like visible factor. Right. It makes you vulnerable in a way. Right. And then another thing that also happened for this coach is that for this consultant is that they now have three pieces, right, of evergreen buffer. So pre-produced during a calm stretch beforehand. So they produce some quality content, and he produced some quality content ahead of time. And knew that okay, whenever I get into a busy week, this thing could be released. So the minimum mattered less for its direct effects and more for what it prevented. So the historical drop to zero within the first 2 weeks of any busy quarter. So what actually changed, right, practically? And what could be the change for you? That's why we have this slide over here. So marketing during busy quarter, right? What does it look like? So before, drop to zero every time, right? So in the busy season, before the capacity ceiling was applied, it dropped to zero completely. And then after applying the strategies that we proposed, what ended up happening is that he is now being held at 2 posts per week, never zero. So the 2 posts per week minimum has already been set. So content during the crunch. Nothing. So before, nothing or no buffer existed. But after, now there are three pieces of evergreen content pre-produced. And the thing is that when you exhaust the buffer, you replace it. That's what a buffer means. Right? A reserve stock. When you exhaust it, you replace it immediately. So that you always have a buffer of at least S number of posts. And then the following quarter. So before there were, reliable pipeline farming. So no marketing was done. So he himself knows, or the coach knows ahead of time that, okay, this was going to happen. Going to have it, to see a certain drop in my sales. And then after we see that, okay, there's no famine, right? First time in the pattern, right? So what was causing the famine or the dry month was dealt with in advance. And then fourth element is the decision timing. So made mean crisis under pressure. So decision to do something about the marketing drop was made prior to that in the middle of crisis. So no forecasting, no predisposition to do something ahead of time. So after, right, what ended up happening is that the decision to actually do something or the timing of it was made in advance in a calm stretch. Made in advance in a calm stretch. Also. So what could this coach say? So it mattered less for its direct effect and more for what it prevented. So having the buffer, having the ceiling capacity, right, framework being applied, mattered less for its direct effect and more for what it prevented. So at this particular time, having those type of things seems like you are wasting time. But when you look long term at a busy season coming up, you know that okay, it hinders you from having a marketing presence of zero in a busy time, and you actually have prevented sales loss from your business. So that's what gives it value. That's what gives it value. All right. So part six, why protecting marketing time feels selfish when clients are waiting. So let's look at it. All right. So knowing the ceiling exists and protecting it protecting it live are two different battles. So knowing the effect of the ceiling, right, and making the intentional decision of doing something about it are two different things. So here usually we address why people will know something and not do it. But the first reason why we find there in this case of marketing, going off completely in busy client season, right, the first objection to applying something that we saw is that people think that marketing time feels selfish when clients are waiting. So what does it look like? What's the mindset around this? So spending any time on visibility work while active clients need attention can feel like a misplaced priority. And sometimes it can feel like a genuine argument that, oh, come on, I have the orders, I have everything. Right? The clients are testing it. Why should I spend more time, or even why should I put some resources towards marketing again? And there can even be the assumption that the client that is there can even tell you that, oh, you are just doing part one of the work. When immediately when you are done with this particular work, I'm giving you S number again. This is when it even gets more dangerous. So at that moment, you left a market of of 1 million or 2 million people or whatever number of potential clients are in your market, and you now put the hope of the sustainability of your business in just one man. That's where it gets really dangerous, right? But again, if your system was built to not be dependent on any other person, and these are things that I learned painfully, right? If you do it ahead of time, if you structure it ahead of time that way, so I'm never building any system, any business system that depends on one particular platform or the possibility of one particular big contract. There are many companies that do run, right? Companies that work, for example, for governments, right, do have they can have government as the only customer that they are fulfilling. But really, out of a million company, maybe you see 10 or 20 like that. But most companies will need to be starting on a variety of customers coming at different seasons. They can come, I mean, continuously, but most of the time it's at different seasons. So what should be the counter tactic when you think that marketing time feels selfish when clients are waiting? So the first counter tactic is, I mean, to know that a business that only markets when it's quiet guarantees its own future quiet period. So you're making that only marketing when it's quiet guarantees its own future quiet period. So a protected minimum ultimately protects future client too. So that protected minimum is not just there for your present client. We're not just talking about the present activity, but we're talking about your future clients. You may not know them yet, but they're out there. And each piece of content that you release, or each time you show up in the market, gets you closer to them. So anytime, any day you miss or any opportunity to get closer to the market you miss, right, becomes what? Them going, you being further away from them, or you slowing down the speed at which they reach out to you, and you guys will start doing business. The second argument is, what if I genuinely have zero time, even for the minimum, right? What does it look like? So some busy seasons feel like they leave no room for even a reduced marketing minimum. So it can actually happen that way. So what should be the counter tactic? So this is exactly what the pre-produced content buffer solves. So build during karma stretches. So that busy weeks require deployment only, not creation. So there is production and then publication, or there's production and then deployment. Production most of the time take 80% of the time, but then deployment is 20%. It's just scheduling actually. So it's very little time. But when you don't do production ahead of time, when you are now told that okay, you have to keep some content going on the platform, you trigger more the production part more than the scheduling. So it becomes like a headache. And you just avoid it. And for weeks, for months, nothing goes on in the busy season. And then the farmer season follows. So we would not want that for you. All right, so let's look at some other genuine exemptions as well. So the what ifs, right? So, but what if 2 posts a week is still too much for my business? So the specific number is yours to set. That's one thing. So maybe we spoke about two a lot here because two in generally for us works, and for people that we work with, it works as well. It sounds one is too low, right? For a serious business, one is too low, right? But if you already have other ways of getting clients beyond social media or content marketing, cool. But if content marketing has been your main way, one is not good. Two is okay. Three is ideal. But again, the number is also set. What matters is that it is a non-zero number and decided in advance, not what the exact figure is, right? And then what if my busy season isn't predictable? Right? Even an unpredictable season benefit from standing minimum and a standing buffer. So you just won't know exactly when to deploy it. So whether if you cannot even predict the time at which you get busy or when exactly others are going to get you overwhelmed, right? You will still benefit a lot from having a buffer. Even if for some, maybe sometime the buffer may not be there for a busy season, but for some reason you may be indisposed, right? You may be unavailable to post or busy with some family or personal life issue, right? The buffer will help you. You just need to go into the buffer and just start scheduling what you have put set out there. That's really how you think about this whole thing. So what if I build a buffer and never end up needing it? Right? So a small evergreen buffer costs little to build during the camp stretch. Truly, during the camp stretch, it costs little. Because there's no pressure on you. And then it prevents a real farmer if you do not need it, the asymmetry favors building it. So there will always benefit to it. Even if there's no obvious reason for you to need it now, there will always be benefit to it. All right. So part seven, The capacity buffer that keeps your content alive during your busiest weeks. So 2 to 3 pieces, right? That's what we're looking at. The first, the capacity buffer, we spoke about it briefly, but these are two rules to work with it. So pre-produce 2 to 3 evergreen pieces during the calm stretch, right? And then genuinely evergreen, not time-sensitive material that expires before the busy season arrive. So what's evergreen? In case some of you may not, evergreen is evergreen content or yeah, evergreen content is content that is relevant beyond any season, relevant at all times that will consistently or anytime you post it, it will be relatable to the market. So it's not bound to news, to time, or to a certain happening in time. In your market and your audience, it will still be relevant, it will still touch hearts regardless of the time. So it's not bound by time or any season or any festivity. And then the second rule here is I want to deploy from that buffer only when the minimum feels like too much. So you are not so quick to exhaust your buffer, right? It's like savings, content savings. That's what to say. You want to go into your savings or your emergency funds when there's still an emergency. You not posting, you not working on you. Maybe there's a week coming up, and then usually you work on your content on weekend. And for that weekend, out of laziness, not that you are busy, out of procrastination, you just decided not to work on your content for the week. When you enter the week, you are not supposed to go into the buffer to actually like do something or pick a new piece of content and post. That's not an emergency. You actually want to spend time whenever you get it during that week to actually produce content for that week, but not go into your reserves. That's an emergency. What happened in that particular case is you just not doing what you're supposed to do. Right? This is an emergency. An emergency has been clearly explained in this particular webinar. So you want to be mindful of that. Otherwise, you end up with that buffer very quickly. So there will need to be some discipline towards this. All right, so part 8. So why does your content quality drops when you get busy? Here's a fix. So no built-in flaw, right? That's a brief one. So you stop treating marketing as the first thing to cut and start protecting a minimum that survives the busiest week. So the a pre-committed minimum viable number, right, backed by a small content buffer is what survives when even the busiest quarter, not full output and not zero as well. So what will survive over time is that you actually do have a pre-committed minimum viable number, pre-committed, right, ahead of time, viable number, right? And you have a buffer, you have a reserve for it. So it's not just done uh, prematurely or in a rush. It's done ahead of time. So you already know what gets cut first. Let's set your protected minimum. So we're offering you a free 15-minute discovery call where we are going to help you look at your content and see exactly how we can, help you protect your content or protect your marketing before busy seasons come. So if you're also watching this webinar, a part of it, make sure you watch the entire webinar or other videos in this webinar. And we also have another one coming up. This is the last webinar of the series. So we're going to look at what should a $5,000 per month coach actually charge for a signature offer without freezing at that number? Because we observe that many people actually do freeze and are not bold enough to mention their numbers in their coaching or consulting business. So that will be it. Make sure you do subscribe, make sure you like and share this video with a coach or a consultant or somebody in the service business. It will bless them tremendously. Thank you once again and have a beautiful rest of your day.